Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're exploring something,
Pretty interesting.
yeah, this is really exciting, I think, for a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
It's called Capital Expo, and they're looking to connect entrepreneurs digitally
Right.
across not just states,
Mm-hmm.
but nations,
Mm-hmm.
even globally. And they're doing it through
A virtual trade show.
a virtual trade show.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds kind of
It's very.
wild when you first hear it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is like almost science fiction in a way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why we decided to do a deep dive on it, because we were
Right.
intrigued by it. We found articles, we found videos,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of information, and we've got some really interesting stuff to share with you.
I think what really caught my eye right off the bat was this whole multi-hosting thing they've got going on.
Okay.
They can host country expos, so for a whole country, or individual state expos,
Wow.
all online, all virtual, and each of these expos are just packed with these digital pavilions.
Pavilions.
Yeah, almost like if you can imagine stepping into a virtual World's Fair,
Right.
but it's designed specifically for entrepreneurs to connect.
So it's like going to a physical trade show,
Mm.
but
Or from your couch.
from your couch, exactly, yeah.
Or your desk.
So tell me a little bit more about these pavilions.
Sure, yeah, so each pavilion is kind of like its own little trade show booth,
Mhm.
hosted by different organizations.
Okay.
You've got universities, co-working spaces, accelerators.
I saw even like diversity causes and government agencies.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole gamut. And what's really interesting is Georgia.
Okay.
They're the first state to actually launch on Capital Expo.
Interesting.
So I'm really curious to see if their really strong tech scene and the startup ecosystem there had something to do with that.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, what were they thinking?
Right.
What's their strategy here?
Exactly.
Well, then one thing that impressed me when I was looking at the material was the way exhibitors can showcase themselves.
Oh, yeah, it's very slick.
It's not just like a
It's dynamic.
static website or something.
Yeah.
It's really dynamic. Yeah.
Right, it's engaging.
They've got videos,
Mhm.
investor decks, team bios.
It's very much like a digital storefront, trying to
Right.
really grab your attention.
Yeah, and grab your attention. It does. But what about, imagine you're a visitor, right, browsing through maybe hundreds of these businesses
From your couch.
from your couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got to be more than just looking.
Right.
So how does Capital Expo make that experience really
Interactive.
interactive? Yeah.
Yeah, they've added some really cool interactive elements to it.
Yeah, like I saw this crowd cheer feature.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
So it's a fun little way to kind of engage with exhibitors that you think are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're going through, you see something, you're like, oh, this is cool. You can give them a little cheer.
Okay, so you're not just passively looking, you're actually like
Exactly.
participating.
You're part of the experience.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's not just cheering. You can connect with exhibitors. You can leave feedback, even vote for your favorites.
Oh.
So they've really thought about how to replicate that buzz and that energy you get from a real world trade show.
And they've even got like a virtual briefcase,
Right.
right? So you can collect all the information you're interested in
Oh, yeah, very convenient.
without, walking away with
A giant stack of paper.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're very eco-friendly.
Exactly. So that's good. But I got to ask you about the visitor lobby.
Okay.
Is that just a digital waiting room or what's going on there?
No, it's way more than that. It's really a dedicated space for networking, attending events, and they even have like resource centers set up in there.
Wow. So it really is like the lobby of a
A physical trade show.
physical trade show. Yeah, where you're
Right.
kind of milling about and seeing what's going
So
on.
meeting people?
Meeting people. Okay.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. But there's one thing that really, I mean, everything about this is kind of wild.
Yeah.
But the thing that stood out to me was the AI-powered matchmaking.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So how does that work?
So they've got this really sophisticated database
Okay.
that connects members based on what they need. So
Mhm.
whether you're looking for funding or partners, mentors, even specific resources,
Okay.
this AI is trying to kind of make the perfect match for you.
So it's like taking the guesswork out of networking
Exactly.
and helping you find exactly what you need at that moment.
That's the idea.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming all this cutting-edge technology, all this development can't be cheap.
Right.
How does Capital Expo, afford to do all this?
So their business model relies a lot on sponsorships.
Okay.
And they offer these sponsorships at a bunch of different levels. You
Mhm.
can sponsor at the national level, at the state level, even at the individual pavilion level.
Wow.
Yeah, so companies can sponsor lobbies, aisles, all sorts of things.
Interesting. So it's the sponsors that are really kind of
Fueling the growth.
fueling the growth. Yeah, and I guess that's what allows them to make it free.
For organizations and exhibitors.
Right. Okay. That's a pretty clever approach, I think.
It's a win-win
Yeah.
for everyone involved.
So let's talk about the technology a little bit,
Sure.
because this is obviously a very tech-heavy platform.
Yes.
And we found out they're using 3 different interconnected cloud-based platforms.
All hosted on Microsoft Azure.
Okay, so 3 platforms. Break it down for me. What does each one do?
So the first one is all about the visitor experience.
Okay.
Think registration, creating your profile, that networking in the visitor lobby, attending events.
So it's kind of like the central nervous system of the whole operation.
Backbone.
Okay, and what about the second platform?
So the second one is the one that's actually hosting all those country and state capital expos.
Okay.
It's the virtual venue.
So that's where the pavilions live.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
each expo has its own, layout and features
Okay.
managed through this platform.
Gotcha. And I'm guessing that third platform is where the magic happens with the...
That's right. The AI matchmaking.
Yeah.
That's the National Entrepreneur Match Market Database.
So it's working behind the scenes 24/7, just kind of crunching the numbers.
Constantly analyzing data, suggesting connections.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it sounds like a pretty well-oiled machine, but it's more than just the tech, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a bigger vision here.
Much bigger.
Yeah, and I think I found a quote from Larry White,
Okay.
who owns the Ritz Group, the company behind all this.
Right.
And he called Capital Expo a living testimony to Georgia's leadership and statewide commitment to growing entrepreneurs and small business.
So they're really putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
They were the first state to sign up, and they're all about connecting Georgia entrepreneurs with resources.
Not just in Georgia.
Not just in Georgia, all over the country, all over the world.
That's amazing. And we even saw that they're looking ahead to...
Web 3.0, the metaverse.
Yeah.
They're really thinking big.
They really are.
They see Capital Expo as like this gateway to these new technologies.
It's ambitious.
It is very ambitious.
But, that's kind of what we need, I think, in the world right now is a little...
To be thinking bigger.
To be thinking bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've talked about the platform, the structure, the features,
The vision.
the tech behind it, the vision.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah. And we're just getting started because there's a lot more to unpack here.
Absolutely.
So stay with us. We'll be right back with part 2 of our Capital Expo deep dive. Welcome back, everybody. So we just laid out a lot about how Capital Expo is structured, what their vision is.
Right.
But let's zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture here.
Mm-hmm.
How does a platform like this actually address the challenges that entrepreneurs are facing today?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest hurdles for any entrepreneur is access to resources.
Right.
Whether it's funding mentors, even just getting the word out about your business.
Yeah.
And a lot of times geography plays a huge role in that.
Absolutely. You think about entrepreneurs that are in smaller towns
Right.
or regions that are, outside of the major tech hubs.
Mm-hmm.
They might have fantastic ideas.
Amazing ideas.
But they just don't have the connections or the resources that you find in places like Silicon Valley or New York.
Yeah, they're at a disadvantage.
So could something like Capital Expo help level the playing field?
Well, that's what's so exciting about this.
Yeah.
It offers a potential solution because it's connecting entrepreneurs digitally regardless of where they are.
Mm.
So imagine a world where, a startup in rural America has the same access to investors and mentors
Okay.
as a company based in London or Tokyo.
It's like breaking down those geographical barriers.
Exactly.
And kind of democratizing access to opportunity in a way.
Right. It's a pretty radical concept when you really think about it.
It is. It really is. And it's not just about the individual entrepreneurs themselves. It's about the impact this could have on entire communities. Especially communities that have historically been underserved.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this isn't just like an incremental improvement. We're talking about like a...
Paradigm shift.
Yeah, like a whole
new way of doing things.
Yeah.
And it's not just about individual entrepreneurs either.
Yeah.
Think about organizations like universities or economic development agencies.
Mm-hmm.
This gives them a global stage
Right.
to showcase their programs, attract talent, connect with potential partners.
So you're creating this like network effect.
Exactly.
Where everybody kind of benefits from that increased connectivity.
Everyone wins.
Yeah. Okay. We got to talk about the economic impact here.
Sure.
Because, the potential is pretty huge, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, imagine entrepreneurs from all over the world.
Yeah.
Connecting, launching new ventures.
That leads to new jobs.
New jobs.
Investments.
Innovation across all kinds of industries.
And those sponsorships that we talked about earlier,
right.
Those aren't just, funding the platform.
They're investing in the future.
Yeah, they're investing in the future of entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
So it really is kind of this win-win-win.
A virtuous cycle.
Yeah, for sponsors, for entrepreneurs, for the economy as a whole.
And it kind of brings us back to this idea of Web 3.0 and the metaverse.
Right.
These technologies that Capital Expo is really eager to embrace.
Yeah, they seem to be like early adopters in that space.
Absolutely.
So how do you see those technologies kind of shaping entrepreneurship in the future?
Well, I mean, the potential is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Imagine a future where entrepreneurs can build and manage their businesses entirely in these virtual worlds.
Okay.
Collaborate with global teams in immersive environments.
And you could even showcase your product in like a virtual showroom or something.
Exactly like a virtual showroom.
That takes the whole concept of a virtual trade show.
To a whole other
level. It's a whole other level, yeah.
And while those technologies are still evolving, Capital Expo's forward-thinking approach really positions them well.
Yeah, they're not just reacting to the trends. They're
ahead of the curve.
They're trying to anticipate what's coming.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's how we use it.
Exactly. It's about how we use it.
And I think that's a really important point for our listeners to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
All this potential
comes with responsibility.
Yeah. So how can we leverage these tools to create a more, equitable and sustainable future for entrepreneurship?
That's the million-dollar question.
And it's one that we're going to continue to explore in our final segment.
Absolutely.
We're going to dive into some of the potential disruptions.
The opportunities
that platforms like Capital Expo might bring to traditional business models.
And what it all means for the future of work and commerce.
Yeah. I'm really excited to get into that.
Me too.
But for now, we're going to give our listeners a chance to kind of digest all this information. And we'll be back soon for the final part of our Capital Expo deep dive. All right, everybody, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive here.
The final stretch.
The final stretch, exactly. So we've talked a lot about how Capital Expo is kind of shaking things up. But let's get down to like the brass tacks here. Like, what could this mean for the future of how we do business?
Well, I think what's really fascinating is this potential for disruption.
Okay.
We're so used to traditional business models, right? Physical offices, brick and mortar stores, geographically limited reach.
Yeah.
Capital Expo completely turns that on its head.
Yeah, you're right. It's like suddenly, again, as a startup in a small town,
right,
could theoretically have a global presence.
Exactly.
And they can be competing with these huge established players.
And on a level playing field.
Yeah, it's a level playing field like we've never seen before.
And think about the cost savings.
Yeah.
No more crazy office rents. No more traveling to conferences, printing marketing materials.
So you're saying like offices and business travel could become a thing of the past?
It's a real possibility.
Wow.
I mean, we're already seeing, the shift towards remote work.
Yeah.
Virtual collaboration platforms like Capital Expo could really accelerate that.
Okay, so it's not just about replacing the old systems. It's about
creating new possibilities.
New possibilities. Okay, give me an example.
Well, think about like hyper-specific niche markets and communities.
Okay.
Capital Expo, with its pavilion system, allows for, incredible granularity. So you could have a pavilion dedicated entirely to, let's say, sustainable fashion startups.
Okay.
Or women entrepreneurs in biotech.
So it's like creating these little micro ecosystems.
Exactly.
Where people with very specific interests can connect.
And collaborate.
Okay.
And that level of focus could lead to much more, meaningful partnerships.
Yeah, it's not just about like networking broadly. It's about finding the right people.
The right people.
Yeah, the people that really understand your vision. But, in all this talk about technology and disruption,
right,
we can't forget about the human element.
Oh, absolutely.
Business is still about people connecting with people.
At the end of the day, it is.
So how does Capital Expo kind of address that?
Well, they really emphasize community building. I mean, they provide the tools, they provide the platform.
The framework.
But it's the people that bring it to life.
It's about building those relationships.
Real, authentic relationships.
Yeah, the kind that lead to trust and good outcomes for everybody.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important takeaway for our listeners.
Okay.
Technology can be an incredibly powerful tool, but we have to use it thoughtfully and ethically.
You're right.
To benefit ourselves and the wider community.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
I'm left with a sense of like excitement,
Optimism.
but also like a little bit of cautious optimism.
Right.
Because there's no doubt that platforms like this
Are game changers.
they really are. I mean, they have the potential to completely revolutionize the way we do business.
But we have to approach these advancements with, a critical eye.
Yeah.
How can we use these tools to create a more equitable and sustainable future for everyone?
That's the question.
That's the question.
And hopefully that's a question that our listeners will continue to think about.
Long after this episode.
Yeah, long after this episode is over. Because Capital Expo is just one example. Of many, yeah, of how technology is reshaping our world.
It's up to all of us to stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We encourage you to go check out Capital Expo for yourself.
Yeah.
See what all the buzz is about.
And maybe even become a part of this, emerging ecosystem.
Exactly.
You can find more information on the Ritz Group website.
www.ritzgroup.org/expo.
That's www.ritzgroup.org/expo.
Until next time, keep diving deep. Stay curious and embrace the possibilities.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.